Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Today is December 2nd, and this is episode 45 of MindMosaic. We have officially entered into the final month of this series, the final chapter that's going to weave everything together and provide the final pieces of this mind mosaic so that you may complete it and realize the great holistic synthesis of it all. But there's still 4 more episodes until then, this being one of them. So without further ado, let's just dive straight into it, and let's talk about the one truth with many names. So as I said, this is the final month of MindMosaic, meaning it is the final topic, subject, that we will be exploring, as each month brings a new area of exploration. So you might be asking yourself the question, what topic will we be exploring this month? And the answer is one that I'm pretty stoked to fill you in on. This month, December 2024, we will be exploring the subject of philosophy. So this specific episode, I kind of wanted it to be sort of like the intro into philosophy, right? And as has been the case throughout this entire series, the themes and the topics that we explore are really just lenses that we use to explore deeper things. They are themes through which we find new ways of understanding ourselves, how we relate to the world, and what we can do to make our lives and our experiences the best they can be, and also what we can do to have the most impact on this world while we are here. And so, in the case of philosophy, I kind of want to go deeper than just talking about this philosophy or that philosophy. And I think the whole theme of this month is this idea of holistic synthesis, weaving various different things together, finding those common threads, and being able to perceive the underlying narratives at play. What I mean by finding the common threads is exploring the myths of the world, philosophical, religious, spiritual, intellectual, finding those common threads, a message held in fragments across cultures, across stories, across history, finding the connections, seeing the underlying logic structures that inform and manifest these different stories that we hear, wherever and whenever they might come from. If your nose is pressed up against the rug and you're staring at a specific string, all you're going to see is that one single thread. But when you take a step back, when you expand the horizons of your perspective, and this is something we've talked about many times throughout this series, the tapestry becomes visible. The way that these strings and threads cross, relate, interweave, informs the pattern that becomes apparent when you step back and you take that holistic perspective. I think the deepest truth one can possibly come to, at least in this life, is the fact that you don't know. It is a mystery. I don't know, you don't know, no one knows what's going on, really. No one knows where they were before they were born. No one knows what will happen after they die. It's a mystery. It is the biggest mystery. It is the mystery. Death, birth, life. So there are many ways that the cultures and intellectual traditions of history have come to terms with this existential question. And the most aptly named example of these, of course, being existentialism. The idea with existentialism is that life and existence are inherently without meaning, devoid of purpose. And while this may seem like kind of a bummer at first, the whole spirit of existentialism encourages us as autonomous agents of our own life to find our own meaning. And it says that it doesn't matter if the cosmos is inherently meaningless, the meaning that we bring to it is not. The meaning that we bring to it is meaningful, even if that's just to us. That is the fundamental sort of basis of existentialism. The abyss of meaninglessness and the existential void is real, absolutely. I mean, at the center of your eye, you have a dark black hole. And that's your eye. That's the center, right? All the colors, they're around the edge. The center is empty. What I'm getting at with that idea is a concept that underscores pretty much every major mythological belief system of the world. And that is that beyond the apparent multiplicity of things, of objects, of phenomena within reality, there is an underlying constant unity that is unseen and often described as indescribable. Funny enough. And yet it is said that it is the primal reality, the only real reality, and that all other things are but temporary appearances of this invisible thing. The creation of the world, whether it is told through a story of a cosmic egg, a voice, a word, a breath, order into chaos. That all of these, despite seeming like they have sort of these superficial contradictions, they're all saying the exact same thing, that everything comes from one thing. Everything comes from one thing. That's what these are all saying. And this truth, in such a bizarre meta way, is fractal, and it carries that same truth into like a different level of meta, a different symbolic level. The logic structure of this truth mirrors the more fundamental truth that I'm getting at. All of these different religions and spiritual traditions and mythologies pointing at a singular underlying truth. It is the same thing again of multiple things being oriented towards this same unifying fundamental thing. All of these things, they are like different verses of the same song that is being reflected through the cosmic prism of memory, of culture, of language, and taking new forms, new, more interesting, elaborate, descriptive manifestations of this same underlying motif. And it is a fractal motif. Unity across scale. Seeming separation united across scale. That's what a fractal is. In the same way that the branching patterns of a tree look just like the veins in that same tree's leaves. It's because that pattern is replicating itself. It's that splitting off dendritic pattern, and we've already talked about this in previous videos. That pattern is replicating itself. And it's that same thing of multiple different threads, veins, converging into a unified structure. In this example being the tree. But the sort of cosmic level of this is the realization that that tree itself is part of a larger fractal, which is part of a larger fractal and part of a larger fractal. So all of these things, from the migratory patterns of birds to the melting point of gold to the structure of these tree branches, they are all like branches on a singular tree. Despite how different they might look from each other, they are all connected at this singular central point, which you could, I guess in this metaphor, perceive as the seed. But these are all just metaphors. These are all just symbols, because really we can't talk about this seed in words, because to talk about it in words is just to dress it up in another costume, to dress it as a seed or as a singularity or as a pupil. These are all just words, and these are all just other garments that I am using to sort of throw a sheet over this ghost because it is invisible, right? And so the only way you can sort of see it is by covering it with something to outline it, to see a rough sort of shape of it. This seed, this black hole, this pupil of the universe, the cosmic pupil, the cosmic egg, this thing that is very difficult to talk about, is the core focus of existentialism. It is the philosopher's stone to the existentialist. This confrontation with the utter meaninglessness of everything, the emptiness of everything. And it's funny because I see that will to face oblivion and to create mirrored as like the will of the universe. It is like, and this is, take this with a grain of salt, this is more of just like a thought experiment than anything, but it is as if the universe itself, or existence itself, gazed into the meaninglessness of its own existence and decided to create, decided to manifest the most fantastical, hyperbolic, loud, colorful universe that could ever exist. And here we are, and this is it. That's kind of a, that's sort of a modern creation myth, I suppose. This idea that the universe itself is an existentialist. Imagine, that'd be so interesting. Like if the universe is somehow aware that it knows that everything is meaningless, but it also knows that it has the ability as consciousness to create meaning, and thus it creates everything, from plants to people to gold and all these different things that appear different, that appear as separate, individual things. And it's convincing because this thing is a shapeshifter. You can know this within yourself by truly knowing yourself, by truly exploring who you are. You'll find that shapeshifter, you'll find that emptiness. And that emptiness is something I think a lot of us can fear a lot of the time, and it's something we end up avoiding. But it is the truth. It is the part of yourself that no one can deny. We've talked about this idea before of life being a theater, being a stage, being a play, and how, we are these performers going through life, dressing in different costumes, exploring different ways of identifying. The truth that comes with this exploration of the truth of many names is realizing that you are not any of these characters that you believe yourself to be. And again, we have talked about this. But what I'm getting at here is that those characters are ways for you to understand yourself, but they are not yourself. And who you are is something that is independent of any character, of any character traits. Who you are doesn't change because of what you wear. Who you are is who you are, and that is just what it is. There is no changing that. There is only the exploration of what could be, and that's what play is. That's what pretending to be a character is. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when you forget who you are, then you lose touch with yourself. You suffer because you think you're gonna die. Because that character, if you think you're fabric and makeup, then you're gonna end up in a landfill and get rinsed down the drain. You're not those things. You're the person wearing those things. This is something I think we all come to learn through the exploration of both ourselves and the world. The one truth of many names is something you find through curiosity. It is something you understand by exploring the many different things of the world, being curious, being fascinated by things, exploring them, trying to understand them, and pattern recognition, being able to see, there's a recurring motif happening across multiple levels. And focusing on those motifs, studying those motifs reveals even more basic and fundamental underlying motifs that exist across even more levels. And the deeper you go, the more you explore, the closer and closer you get to realizing this ultimate nihilistic truth of meaninglessness. But I think the goal of what I'm trying to get across today is that even though it's meaningless, you're not alone. You're in good company. And this is the best damn universe ever, because it's the only one. And we have the astounding, unbelievable privilege of getting to exist, even if it's just for a moment. This game of life is rigged, but it is rigged in our favor. It is rigged for discovery. The myths, the stories of the world, they are like clues, and they point towards a singular truth, an awakening. And it's there, it's waiting for you. Just put the pieces together, start exploring. The mystery calls to each of us. It calls us through our hearts, calling us to explore. This is how life invites us to widen our perspective, to see beyond the apparent differences of the world and witness the threads that tie everything together. The Tao, Brahman, God, the universe, all of these things, they are the masks of something that doesn't have a face. They are the names of something that cannot be named. And this nameless, faceless thing is true. It is undeniable. It is within everything. And it is the truth that all things are one, appearing to be many. It all comes back to that. This is why we see this fractal nature of everything. It is because it is the underlying unity reflected, expressed through multiplicity, not as a denial of the unity, but as a representation of it, as many, because I am one, and you are one, and this fern is one as well. It is the unity within everything represented through the multiplicity as a way to express it, to celebrate it, to honor it, to kowtow it, to pay tribute to it. I see it as all of these things. The manifestations of the universe are the universe's way of honoring, loving, and celebrating the cosmic, mysterious, paradoxical thing that it is. Something that by all rules of logic should not exist, and yet it does. Through some miracle, some unknown, unknowable miracle, there is the potential for something to exist. And I think that is all that is needed for a reality just like this one to be born. A reality where I can speak these words, where I can think about this stuff and then say this to you and you hear me. And we share in this experience of contemplating what it means to exist. So here you are in the game of life, a shapeshifter, a dreamer, a creator, a fragment of the infinite paradox, the mystery, experiencing life, experiencing being something unique, something with a set of quirks, a set of characteristics, making your way through this experience to once again remember that you are just a fragment of the infinite mystery over and over again, most likely. This is the design of the tapestry, as far as I can tell right now. This is the game. This is the truth of many names. That all things are one, and the one is everything. So with that said, I'll see you later. And keep dreaming, you beautiful sleepwalking shapeshifter.